Hi there, welcome to my views and news. Two news stories. Firstly, Ethiopia and Egypt have exchanged some strong messages. Interesting revelations by some sources that both countries have exchanged some messages about Egyptian military intervention in Somalia. I'm not talking about public statements, I'm talking about actual messages delivered by Ethiopia to Egypt and vice versa. What happened? And secondly, viewers, a regional state leader in Somalia delivered a speech of yesterday. The regional state leader raised questions about the deployment of Egyptian military, entry of Egyptian arms and ammunition in Somalia. Let's start, viewers, with the first news story. Ethiopia, I've been saying, is very concerned about Egyptian military expansion in Ethiopian neighborhood. For years, Egypt has been trying to gain a military foothold in Ethiopian neighborhood because Egypt wanted to put pressure upon Ethiopia to extract some concessions from Ethiopia over the issue of GERD. Egypt's main dispute with Ethiopia is GERD. Egypt has been opposing the construction of the dam. It teamed up with Sudan, with Western countries to stop Ethiopia from constructing the dam. It backed some Ethiopian opposition armed groups too. International financial institutions refused to support Ethiopia in dam construction despite all these challenges. Against all odds, Ethiopia managed to build this mega project. I always say that GERD is the proof of what Ethiopians can do if they are united. They went against the world, they went against the tide, and they managed to build a dam, a mega project. This is what they can do if they're united. And Ethiopians, I think, majority ruling elite as well, they remained united on the issue of God, I think. Egypt wants to corner Ethiopia on the issue of dam. It wants to extract concessions from Ethiopia. That is why it is sending its military armaments to Somalia. Now, it is being reported that Ethiopia has delivered some special messages to Egypt. Direct messages, confidential messages. Messages were delivered through some sources, through some contacts, bilateral contacts based in Djibouti. Did Djibouti government officials deliver these messages? Oh, no, but the contacts which delivered Ethiopian messages to Egypt are based in Djibouti. By the way, IGAD is also based in Djibouti. IGAD's headquarters is in Djibouti. IGAD is led by Warkane Gebeyehu, who is IGAD Secretary General, and he is from Ethiopia. He's former Ethiopian foreign minister. Either through IGAD or through Djibouti's government or through foreigners, because there are foreign bases too in Djibouti. Ethiopia delivered a message to Egypt. Message is that if Egyptian forces pose a threat to Ethiopia, Egyptian forces in Somalia, if they pose a threat to Ethiopia, Ethiopia will take action. Ethiopia won't hesitate from taking action on Egyptian forces in Somalia. This is what Ethiopia said. Egypt replied. Egypt said its forces are ready. If any provocation is planned or implemented, its forces are fully capable and they can defend themselves. So this is the level of tension between the two countries. Is it turning into a direct conflict between Ethiopia and Egypt? Egypt wants to use Somalia as proxy. Somalia is in need of allies, so it is ready to be a proxy because Egypt is arming, training Somalia's military. Ethiopia will have to be very careful. How should it tackle this challenge? Should it adopt the strategy of direct confrontation against Egypt, or should it just put pressure upon Somalia? That's what Ethiopia will have to decide what to do now. But the way Ethiopia is delivering direct messages to Egypt, it means that this conflict could turn into direct Ethiopia-Egypt conflict in Somalia. Let's see. Secondly, viewers, a regional president in Somalia spoke yesterday. He opposed the delivery of weapons to Somalia from Egypt. He raised questions about the entry of Egyptian military in Somalia. Said Abdullahi Deni is Puntland president. He is not on good terms with the federal government of Somalia. His government rejected one person, one vote electoral reforms passed by Somalia's parliament a few months ago. And he announced that his government will work separately, independently. The Puntland has not announced independence so far, unlike Somaliland, which has announced independence. It is working to get international recognition as a country. Puntland president raised questions about entry of Egypt in Somalia, saying it could complicate the security situation in Somalia. Secondly, the president stood with Southwest state. He opposed federal government's actions on Southwest state of Somalia. We know that federal government of Somalia has been in talks with Southwest state of Somalia to deploy Egyptian troops there and to convince Southwest state to expel Ethiopian troops. Southwest state President Laftagarin opposed the expulsion of Ethiopian troops and entry of Egyptian troops. And then we saw that members of parliament from Southwest state, they were put under travel restrictions. They were not allowed to fly from Mogadishu to Bedoa. In this conflict between Southwest state and Mogadishu, Puntland is supporting Southwest state. Deni said in his speech that the actions taken by the federal government could be a threat to Somalia's unity. That is why federal government must act in a responsible manner. So in a way, now two regional states of Somalia, Puntland and Southwest state, have united on the issue of expulsion of Ethiopian troops and entry of Egyptian troops. Both are opposing the entry of Egyptian troops and expulsion of Ethiopian troops. Are there any Ethiopian troops in Puntland? I'm not sure. There are Ethiopian troops, thousands of them, in Southwest state. Federal government will have to handle this issue of deployment of Egyptian troops in Southwest state very carefully, because Southwest state is ready to confront Mogadishu government if Ethiopian troops are expelled from Southwest state, or if Egyptian troops forcibly tried to enter Southwest state.